Senator Hunt, you're recognized to open on LB 260.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, Nebraskans. Today, I am presenting LB 260, a bill to allow family caregivers to be eligible for unemployment. I'm proud to have 25 co-sponsors on this and a broad base of bipartisan support, and I'm really hoping that this is the year we can get this done. I selected LB 260 as my personal priority bill this year because after everything we have been through in the past year, I wanted to do something that would have a tangible impact for Nebraskans who have experienced financial hardship because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Of course, the ways in which the coronavirus have impacted us all are much more far-reaching than just financial. And I'd like to take the moment to acknowledge that we have all been through an incredibly traumatic time in the past year. I don't think we will know for some time just how deep and long-lasting this trauma will be for people in Nebraska. The loss of life, hundreds of thousands of grandmothers, grandfathers, parents, aunts and uncles, and even children gone too soon is the greatest tragedy of all. At this point in the United States, we've had 555,000 deaths, 2.79 million worldwide, and 2,289 just here in Nebraska. So these are lives lost, and that's a very tragic thing. And to everyone who has lost someone to this virus, I'm holding you in my heart, and I'm sorry. I can only imagine your pain, and I'm sorry that the government wasn't able to do more to help you. It's important to acknowledge that all of these deaths did not need to happen. Apart from the great loss of life, however, all of us are experiencing, and will continue to experience for some time, other effects that are very, very real and impactful on the trajectory of our lives. The mental and emotional toll this virus has taken on us as a society, even if we didn't lose somebody, even if we had our health throughout the past year, I think these effects will ripple for years to come. The loss of our cherished rites of passage, graduations, weddings, proms, babies born, and grandparents passing in the hospital without the comfort of visitors. These things are all tragic. For those of us who have been lucky enough to avoid major tragedy coming out of this pandemic, the loss of other things that seemed insignificant before, like hugging a grandparent, time with friends at school, seeing friends and family over the holidays, canceled vacations, all of these things take a toll too because we're collectively experiencing a grief over the loss of normalcy that we've had over the past year. As we begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel and vaccines are getting into arms, I'm very excited. I got vaccinated yesterday and I'm not feeling very well today, but I know that I'm gonna feel better going forward because I'm going to be protected from the virus, and I encourage everybody else to get vaccinated too, of course. It's my sincere hope that we don't forget the most important lesson that this tragedy has taught us, which is our human connections with each other, our relationships are the most important thing. Not our job or our achievements or our belongings or our wealth. It's really about quality time with our loved ones. And after this year, I would never trade that for anything in the world. To that end, after that long preamble, I selected LB 260 as my priority bill this year because while we will never be able to make up for the terrible loss suffered in the past year, we have to do whatever we can to put in place policies that will provide real, tangible relief to our constituents who are suffering from this past year. Many of our constituents lost loved ones, lost livelihood, or have had to take care of a sick loved one in a time when our healthcare system is stretched so thin and the availability of skilled care is so sparse. With LB 260, we're allowing workers who have earned unemployment benefits throughout their years in the workforce a temporary safety net of unemployment eligibility while they care for a seriously ill family member and seek to get back to work. Some of you will recognize this bill as the former LB 306 from the 2019 legislative session, which was introduced by Senator Sue Crawford. That bill passed unanimously out of committee and made it to final reading on the floor, where it ultimately failed because of a disagreement about the definition of domestic partner, which was in the bill. Colleagues, LB 260, my bill this year, that totally removes that piece. So that controversial part that was in the bill last year, it's not included in this bill at all. The bill also incorporates language from the committee amendment, which was a compromise to neutralize opposition from business groups by adding language to specify that the employee who's seeking unemployment must have made all reasonable efforts to preserve their employment. So that means they will have had to talk to their boss, ask for different hours, do everything in their power to try to keep that job before they file for unemployment. And LB 260 had no opposition in committee. To explain what this bill does, the bill simply adds caring for a family member with a serious health condition to the list of existing reasons that constitute good cause for voluntarily leaving employment under our employment security law. Under current Nebraska statute, employees who leave work due to family caregiving demands are not able to collect unemployment benefits that they have earned through their years in the workforce. Caregiving usually involves taking time off work to provide hands-on care for an elderly, ailing, or disabled family member, such as help with bathing, eating, or giving medications. To be clear, in order to collect unemployment in Nebraska, no matter what reason you're filing for unemployment for, you have to be ready, willing, and able to work. The provisions in this bill require that the person has made all reasonable efforts to preserve their employment, but has had to leave employment to care for a family member with a serious condition. You're only eligible for unemployment under this bill if you're seeking a new job, and these individuals would be subject to the same job search requirements as any other claimant. So really what we're covering with this bill are situations where someone has had to leave one job, but they're looking for another job. That's when you would qualify for unemployment under this bill. Our employment security law is an insurance program designed to serve those with a strong work history who become unemployed through no fault of their own. This bill supports people who have likely worked the majority of their lives, but who were forced to have a temporary lapse in employment while caring for a seriously ill family member. For example, an employee may have a parent that suddenly and seriously becomes ill. It may take weeks for the employee to make suitable arrangements for the patient's long-term care, or until their parent might be admitted into a care facility. So this bill is just providing a safety net for workers who cannot leave their current job otherwise because their current job is not compatible with the caregiving needs of their family. Under this bill, it works just like every other type of unemployment. Benefits are paid from the Unemployment Compensation Fund, which each employer already pays into now. This bill would not affect any individual employer or charge them for benefits paid out. Applicants would draw unemployment compensation from the fund, like every other unemployed worker today, which is a pool of money funded by employers across the state as well as the federal government. This bill would not cause benefits to be counted against any individual employer's experience or reserve account. And the Department of Labor has previously stated in discussions around this bill that the changes anticipated under this bill would not be substantial enough to require an impact on any individual employer's experience account. It won't cost anything to businesses, small or large or whatever. A worker may have to quit their job to care for a patient or a spouse with a terminal illness, Alzheimer's, dementia, and they may not have enough funds to fall back on until they find another job. This can be particularly devastating for low-wage workers who are less likely to have savings enough to withstand periods away from work or to be able to afford professional care for a family member. Additionally, the sacrifices associated with caring for a family member disproportionately fall upon women who tend to live longer and provide informal care in multiple roles: sister, daughter, mother, grandmother. We women know that we are often the caregivers, and it's us who fall to fill that role. For low-wage workers, particularly women, who can't afford to pay for care for a loved one with substantial caregiving needs, this may require the difficult choice of having to leave a job to take care for a sick family member. Providing this temporary safety net will allow these caregivers some security while they seek to return to the workforce and find a job that's compatible with their caregiving responsibilities. Another thing to think about with this bill is many jobs don't grant workers the flexibility to take off the time they need, and when we talk about long-term care facilities, closures, capacity restrictions, and fear of infection has caused a huge strain on the availability of skilled care. And so this is a bill that will also save money to the state because people who would sometimes be putting their relatives in a skilled care facility will be able to keep those relatives at home. This is a bill that had no opposition at the hearing. It has 25 co-sponsors of all political stripes. It's not a free handout. It is a bill in the spirit of encouraging continued workforce participation while demonstrating understanding about temporary gaps in employment. I would encourage your green vote on the bill, and thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Hunt.